Yes, yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the TMP podcast, Total Mental Performance. Today, we've got Dan. We're Dan from TMP. Yeah, who's Dan? Today, we're going to talk about 14 years. I spent 6 years in corporate sales. Dan spent 9. We're going to be talking about corporate sales tales. We're going to talk about that experience, how that formed so much experience, whether that's from a mindset perspective, a psychology perspective, a questioning perspective, a pressure, emotions. There's so much within that. Anyway, Dan, mate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be back again.
Well done yesterday, by the way. Dan was speaking at the Supercharged event for Ollie Carson's mastermind, and he absolutely smashed it. It's the best I've seen you speak.
Thank you so much. It felt different. I said this to you shortly after I spoke. It felt very different leading up to it yesterday, and actually it takes a while to kind of find a groove and feel natural and confident ultimately. But, you know, we're getting on for a year now that I've been part of TMP, and
Birthday's coming up.
The birthday is coming up, yeah. And the framework that which we take clients through has become an inherent part of my internal framework psychology now, so it feels a lot more confident, feels a lot more natural when speaking about these things, because leading from the front, a lot of the tools, techniques, frameworks have now been integrated into my life personally, so it's natural.
Yeah. Well, I love the topic of sales. In the UK, it's a bit of a dirty word. When you hear the word salesman, you kind of go, ugh. We were saying this yesterday, actually, that in this profession, we get a lot of love from the industry. When we walk and speak in rooms or we work with our clients, everybody's always happy to see us. It's not like that when my job is just to sell stuff, particularly in the UK. There's a lot of guilt and shame around it, isn't there?
There absolutely is, yeah. I remember whenever I used to go on a date with someone, if I used to meet a woman to go on a date and we got into the conversation of what do you do, sales immediately get the backup. What does this guy want? This guy's got an agenda. Yeah.
This guy's a slimy, manipulative dude that wants something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the States, it's celebrated.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they celebrate capitalism in the States. So sales is a completely different ballgame. They look at somebody as a salesperson. It's almost like an athlete. It's like, this guy's got ambition. This guy wants it. Over here, we're like, all right, mate.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different spell. It's a different story. So I remember your first sales role. So me and Dan have been friends for a long time, and I've watched his journey and been alongside him, particularly when we were the yuppies in London, the young guys earning great money, cocky, arrogant, never nasty. We weren't pricks. But there was a yuppiness to us. We're talking 20, 21, 22, 23, you know, it was a rocky road, but it was fun.
Sure was. Yeah, the yuppie is an interesting way to look at it. Almost feel like reflecting back on it now, there was some form of superiority complex that I was operating from at that time.
I was walking around in a white shirt with scarves indoors. Remember? You used to have a big long green scarf. Diesel one. He used to walk around in a white shirt. It was so ridiculous. I used to have this long shirt, and I'd always have a long scarf. No matter if I was in a bar, in a pub, in a club, it was always that, wasn't it?
It was the scarf, and for me, I don't know if you remember my outfits. My outfits are outrageous when I look back on it now.
You used to love the suits. You used to love pinstripes. You used a pinstripe boy, weren't you?
Pinstripe suit and big, expensive watch, because that made me feel worthy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the watch.
The watch, yeah.
Oh, dear. Good times.
There's so much wisdom in it all, though. Like, reflecting back on it now, I went through a period after realizing that the path I was on in sales wasn't ultimately the one that I wanted to be on, and I just resented it for a long time and almost just disregarded everything I picked up. But there really is so much wisdom in sales, because there are so many different moving parts that need to be juggled in order to be good at it. Sure, you can just chuck shit at the wall and eventually some of it's going to stick. That was a classic saying. Or it's a numbers game. You keep hammering the phone and
it's
eventually...
It's a fucking numbers game, son.
It's just a numbers game, yeah. But that's the, Neolithic kind of just hit it with a hammer until it works approach, right? But actually, you can be a bit of a sniper with it, can't you? If you question correctly, and there are very intricate and fascinating ways to question.
Yeah, and there's also very different types of sales. So in coaching, sales is easy, and the reason coaching sales is easy is because you get a yes or no there and then on the spot, and it's pretty much done. Whereas, sure, particularly in software, where I spent the majority of my sales life, it's not as transactional. Not that coaching is transactional, but you're with the person that makes the decision. Whereas in some of the more consultative sales that I used to do, it would take 9 months to close a deal. And you're not just selling to the person that's going to use the product or the service. You got to sell to their boss. You got to sell to them so they understand, oh, okay, what is the value? Because they're the ones that's going to sign off. You got to sell to the technology team. Yeah, you can integrate it. Then you got to sell the deal to the legal team, the finance team. And there was often 5, 6, 7 people in those deals. And it was going on for so long. And it's so different. Whereas here, in the coaching space, it's a case of, you need it? Can you afford it? Let's do it. And it's such a simple conversation. And here, you can be so much more authentic. I think about, like, you had to communicate in a way that just wasn't human almost back then in that world.
Absolutely did. And a lot of the roles which I did in sales, spanning across different industries, firstly financial services and then later into software as well, pretty much all of the roles I did were built upon relationship management. So beginner role, be handed a portfolio of accounts with key customers within there, and it would be my job to go in and develop relationships with these people. And initially I thought that was great because I get a company credit card, I can go and entertain and take people to nice lunches and dinners. But I've spoken openly about my identity crisis many times before, and I put a lot of that relationship management that I was doing in sales down to the fact that I ended up in crisis because I was applying so many different masks and characters based on who was sat in front of me. I almost forgot who I was underneath all of that stuff. It can be very damaging. Yeah. But then in that, coming back to this idea of wisdom, there's actually a skill in that, being able to apply a different character based on who you've got sat in front of you isn't necessarily a bad thing, providing it's still authentic and you're meeting whoever it is that you're speaking to in their model of the world, bringing yourself back into yourself afterwards, of course.
Well, that comes into communication.
Yeah.
So I was taught a model, I talk about it a lot with clients, Spanish, Russian, and Greek. One of my mentors he used to be a VP of sales at a big US technology company. And they used to pay this guy $20,000 a day to fly him from the States to come and train his team in this framework. And it's a really, really fascinating framework. And he talked about Spanish, Russian, and Greek. Spanish being the technical language. So has it got red lights? Has it got blue lights? Can it have this API integration? Or can it plug into this system? Or how does it look in all the architecture and all that very different stuff? So these people were typically the techies. They were the ones, or the people that were using the product. They need to know, well, can it do what I need for my job? Then you had Russian, and Russian was all about, I need to know if it's got red lights or blue lights, but what's the value of that? So if it's got red lights, why are red lights better than blue lights? Those were typically management level. So you're talking head of department, maybe director level. And then you had the Greeks, the language of the gods, and they were the CEOs, the CMOs, the CTOs. They were the chief. They were on the boards. They didn't give a shit whether it's got red lights or blue lights. They just want to know, is this going to make me more money? Is this going to protect my brand? Is this going to minimize my risk? Is it going to help us look better, ultimately? Does it move the business forward? And you had to learn to communicate in those frameworks and understand, who am I communicating with? Am I communicating with a Spaniard, or am I communicating with a Russian, or am I communicating with a Greek? Or am I communicating with a Greek that speaks Spanish? Am I speaking to a CEO who knows about the technical integrations because he's got a technology background? And you need to know your shit, otherwise you're out the door. You're gonna get forgotten about. So I think that there was a real skill in learning how to communicate the various different chains. Right at the top, so I managed to book a meeting with the CEO of Monsoon, and I just spoke Greek. I sent him an email. On this email, it literally said, "Hey, Paul, I would like to, if I could help you reduce your returns and increase your sales through fit recommendation technology, would you be interested? Then I sent a hyperlink to our product live on one of his competitors. Just click the find your fit button on this page. Let me know, Kyran. I wasn't talking about, we can take all of your customer data and we can do all of this. We can do all these amazing things. We can really make the customer experience so much better and cleaner and faster, and we're going to make this so much smoother. It was none of that bullshit. It was like, you want to sell more stuff and have levels that come back?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually read their report, their company report for the year, and their operation profits was a lot lower than what it should have been. So of course they want less shit coming back, and who doesn't want to sell more stuff? So I was clued up. He ignored me. Didn't get a response. Then I had this is probably borderline legal at the time, but I had this Israeli tracking software. So I could see when he'd opened the email, I could see when he clicked the link. And I was sat behind my desk, and I saw he'd opened the email and he'd clicked the link. This same Israeli tracking software had the mobile phone number on it. So I had his phone number off of this tool. I didn't think it was going to work. I called it, and he goes, "Hello?" And I said, "Hi, Paul. It's Kyran from," I'm not going to say the company, I don't want to get in trouble. It's Kyran from this company. I'm not sure if you saw my email, but I was just wondering, did you want to reduce your returns and sell more clothes? And he goes, "What a coincidence. I just happened to have your email in front of me." I was like, yeah. Did you click on the link? He goes, "I did. It looked really smart. Can you come in and see me?" And booked a meeting off the back of that. Now, if I'd gone into that conversation and gone Spanish, so the future of fashion technology trends is fit recommendation technology, because he would have just went, "Mate, you're boring. I don't care." On the flip side, when I went in to speak to the fashion technology garment techs, I'd have to go in there and I'd be like, right, here's how we can process all of the data. Here is how we can take the fabric of the clothes and the measurements, and here's how we can put it into our tool, and here's how it makes recommendations based on their body weight, and this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I had to have those conversations. So whether it's the CEO checks in with the manager, so the Greek to the Russian, that the Spaniards are happy, and they're all going, thumbs up. Think it's a good piece of technology. I think Kyran and their team are good guys. Mm-hmm. When you put it down to it, that's what it is. So I think part of it is inauthenticity, but a lot of it is actually just having to communicate to get your message across, and that's where you start to lose yourself a little bit. It's like, well, how do I want to communicate? Do I want to be a Greek, or do I want to be a Spaniard, or do I want to be a Russian? When you and I are speaking about client breakthroughs and tools and techniques and mindset and beliefs and that, we're going to Spaniard land. We're talking deep Spanish. Okay, well, what does that person need in order to make that breakthrough? When we're talking about, okay, well, we think we can double our client base this year, that's Greek. Pure Greek. The Spanish is Lola, a marketing and operations manager, coming in and going, we're going to have this automation, and here's where the emails are going to go, and here's this, and here's this, and here's this. I think a big part of that is communication, and that's such an underrated skill that sales definitely taught us.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And something which I'd learned as a result of training as a therapist is that the vast majority of people are listening to respond as opposed to listening to understand before responding. And in taking a step back, listening to understand whoever it is speaking to you and what they're trying to say, that gives you the opportunity to respond back in their chosen communication framework, whether you look at the Greek, Spaniard, or Russian model, or any other one. They're all kind of in the same realm of big picture or little picture, right? Some people are going to want loads and loads of detail, other people aren't. And something which I think we can draw upon there, bringing the conversation back to coaching, is that a lot of coaches enter sales calls, particularly coaches who get quite nervous and anxious, worked up before a sales call, jump on that call and immediately feel like they've got to throw as much value as possible at the client. And that's the way which they're going to close, when in reality, not everybody's going to want that.
Yeah.
Some people are almost ready by the time that they're on the call anyway, because they've come in, they want something, you've got something that they're after, and they don't need to be sold to the nth degree of what every minute detail of your program is offering. They just want the outcome.
Here's a story. I remember my first ever sales job I got was a company in the county that we grew up, just north of London in Hertfordshire. And I remember the CEO, he gave me my first shot. So I met him at the Peter Jones Academy. And back then, so the Peter Jones Academy, I joined there when I was 16, 17, got qualifications in enterprise and entrepreneurship, financial studies, and the entrepreneurial mind. Very cool experience, but the business didn't work out. And the reason the business I had didn't work out because I didn't know how to sell B2B. So I met him at this networking event. And I said, what do you do? Do you have a B2B sales company? That's all I cared about. I need to learn how to sell B2B. I need to learn how to sell B2B. He goes, yeah, I got one of those. I was like, how does it work? And he's like, yeah, well, we're doing like in the millions of revenue, and we sell welding and fabrication equipment, but we do have this new VR product. It's an educational product. I think you'd be interested in it. I was like, well, whatever it is, I'll come and work for free for the summer because I just want to learn these skills, and then afterwards we'll see. And he goes, you want to come and work for free? I was like, I'll come and work for free, yeah. And anyway, it gave me the spiel. Did you ever get this in an interview? Sell me the pen.
I never got someone with a pen.
I got Sell Me the Pen. I got Sell Me the Pen before Wolf of Wall Street. So anyway, he goes, I want to give you an interview just so you have the experience because you've never been to a job interview. I said, no, I haven't. He goes, all right, let's do that. And we're doing the interview and whatever. And he goes, all right. And you know the word fella? You know when I say fella? He's the one that taught me that word. It stuck with me every morning to come in and go, you're right, fella. And anyway, he goes, here you go, Kyran. I want you to sell me this pen. And I go, okay, all right. The pen he gave me was a chewed up biro. It was a really horrible biro. And I said, I don't want to say his name just because I don't know whether the stuff I'm talking about is legal insofar as contracts and exclusivity and anonymity and all those various different things that I signed in those contracts. So out of respect, I won't say anyone that I used to work with there. I won't say anyone's names. But he goes, send me this pen. I went, okay, Mr. CEO. I'm guessing you meet some pretty important people. And he goes, yeah, pretty important. I says, what kind of people do you meet? He goes, well, we're one of the leading companies in what we do in the country. So I meet people in government. I've met the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister? Yeah, I've met the Prime Minister. Who else have you met? Well, I've met big CEOs. He started really kind of playing on his ego. Yeah, I've met some big dogs. I was like, ah. So I'm guessing you think that first impressions are pretty important. And he goes, of course they are. And I was like, and when it comes to men, you often judge a man, you shake his hand. You often judge a man on what he's wearing, the car that he drives. But sometimes it's the little details. The watch that he has, the pen that he has, and I've showed up this piece of shit pen that he's given me. And he goes, and I said to him, so I think it's pretty important that we get the details right. Are you a detail-orientated person? Identity. Yeah, I am. I said, okay. Well, look, as I understand, this is your current pen. And luckily, and this is how I used to think of my feet, I had a pen in my back pocket. I said, well, look, you've just given me your pen. As I understand it, if you met the Prime Minister, you probably wouldn't take this pen with you. He went, no, I wouldn't. I said, I'd like you to try this pen. And I pull out a pen out of my back pocket. And he's shocked. He's like, okay. And I hadn't prepped for this at all. I've never heard that question. I said, just write on that piece of paper with that pen. I think it's going to suit you. And he starts writing. He's a very nice pen. And I said, look, at the end of the day, people think pens aren't important. In my world, they're one of the most important things ever. So if you don't like that pen, and he had a catalogue of his stuff. If you don't like that pen, I grabbed the catalogue and I said, I've got 1,000 pens in here and I'm an expert at helping you pick pens. And I'm happy to spend this whole afternoon to find you the pen that if you're meeting important people, you'd be proud to lend it to them. And he went silent. The HR director's gone silent. I'm thinking, I was far too bold there. I fucked up. The silence went on forever. I'm like, oh my God, this has all gone wrong. Oh shit. And he goes, you're a natural. I went, am I? And he went, yeah. I was like, all right. Well, now what? And he goes, I'm going to give you a paid job. Doing what? I don't know yet. But whatever it is that you do, I need you in this business. I was 17 at that point. And how I got onto this story was because I remember on the first day, he gave me 30 minutes to ask him any questions about sales. So I just started asking him loads of random shit questions. It's like, well, how do you make a sale? He's like, well, you got to show value, you got to show this, you got to show that. And I was like, well, what do you need to tell them? And he stopped me dead in my tracks and he went, listen here, fella, selling isn't telling. So the reason this story will come to mind was because when you get onto a call, often you think you have to just tell, we do this, we're the market leaders in here, I have got this many transformations, I'm the king, I'm this, I'm that. It's not that at all. The best people, air quotes here, salespeople, deeply understand their clients because they ask better questions. That guy that my mentor was paying $20,000 a day to come in and train sales team, he wasn't teaching you how to pitch. He was teaching you how to ask better questions. He was teaching you how to connect with people on a completely different level, on a completely different league. So if selling and sales calls is something that you find really difficult and hard, I want you to just remember and internalize that. Selling isn't telling. And those initial connection calls, for us, we're not here to pitch you because, quite frankly, without sounding arrogant, we don't need more clients right now. We don't have enough boots on the ground. We were oversubscribed. For us, it's a coaching moment. It's an opportunity for us to hold up a mirror to some of your blind spots. It's also an opportunity for us to vet you and see, are you the right fit? Do you have the potential to be water? Do you operate with honor? Do you operate with love? Our 3 biggest values here at TMP. And we do that through asking incredible questions. So if you're sat here, or perhaps, your sales process has been very much, here's my magic slide deck. You and I did many slide decks. Here's my magic slide deck. Here's why you should sign up with us. Here's this. Take it back to that first ever CEO that I had. Selling isn't telling.
Stories. So is it stories sell, value tells? Yeah. It's an interesting thought. A great story as well. I was training to become a therapist as I was still working in sales, and the quality of my conversations catapulted into the future as a result of learning different questioning frameworks through training as a therapist. And I presume I can talk about the questioning frameworks because you've done it in trainings which we've done, how to sell like a therapist, etc. And there's one key question which we
it's my favorite.
Across to everybody.
My fucking favorite one.
It's infinitely variable. So for anyone who's listening now, listen to this question, and I just want your curiosity to take you wherever you want and think about the different ways in which you could use this question.
And do it in relation to TMP.
In the way which we would ask it.
Ask the question, but whoever's thinking about this, if you've been thinking about working with TMP, answer the question as if I worked with TMP, that's the question. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yeah. So here's the question. For anybody who's considering working with TMP, or even for anybody who isn't, you can still let your mind wander to that place. If you got everything that you could possibly ask for out of working with TMP, how would you know? What would change for you? And what that question's doing is plucking you from your current reality and transporting you forward to a place in time whereby you've got what your unconscious mind deeply wants, but you just don't know it yet. And what that question does you is opens a doorway for you to view into that part of your solution state. It's incredibly powerful to take yourself there. And sometimes that's all we really need, because we get trapped in the loops of perpetual overwhelm and stress and anxiety and whatever else we're currently struggling with. And that question cuts through all of that noise and just unplugs you from it.
Write this question down, hit pause as soon as I finish. If you got what you came for, how would you know? In that specific language. If you got what you came for, how would you know? When you go to McDonald's, usually it's a cheeseburger, double cheeseburger, maybe a chicken sandwich if you're really fancy, maybe a fillet of fish. God, I haven't made McDonald's in years.
Either.
That's your outcome. Because all it does is it just helps your mind go, oh, what am I looking for? And if somebody gives you an answer that isn't what you do, you point them in the right direction and you send them that way. The amount of business we turn away because we're just not what they need. We get people knocking on our door saying, hey man, I need to scale my business and I need to get better systems and I need to grow more revenue and I need to do this and this. And yeah, we can help with some of that. But if the question is, well, have you got a business mentor? If the answer is no, go get one of those first, because your priority is to grow the business. Now, you will be the biggest blocker in growing your business, but if you don't know how to do it, you can be the most confident person in the world, but if you don't have the skills, it's useless, because you've still got to go and build the skills. So by asking that question, it will filter out a hell of a lot of noise. When you look at sales is just psychology, because all you're doing is trying to understand a human's needs, whether you can meet them or not. A good salesperson, in my view, is the ability to help a client meet their needs with a good level of return on investment in relation to what they put in, and that's it. And if they feel like they cannot reach that customer's needs with what they have, they decline to work with the client or they point them in the right direction. Notice how that's got nothing to do with money. Notice how that's got nothing to do with the hitting their numbers or hitting their targets or whatever, because it's more important that every single deal that you do is win, everybody wins, than trying to get one over, because you've got a target to hit. And that's really, really, really important. Whereas in the sales world, reminiscing a little bit, there is a ruthlessness in corporate sales. There is a inherent, it taught me a hell of a lot, but there is a ruthlessness within there. Because imagine this, right? You work in a sales office. I used to work in offices in central London. You walk to your little part of the office. There's all the desks. Quite a few of you are hungover from going out on a Wednesday or Thursday night or taking out clients. You've also been working your absolute bollocks off, and you're tired, and you're stressed, and you're anxious. You're deeply insecure, and you need to hit your numbers, and you're very achievement driven. You look up onto the wall. What's on the wall? A big whiteboard with all of your names. And you all know how the commission structure works. So guess what? You know exactly how much money everyone's making. And you also know who's number one, who's number two, number three. A bit like sports, it's binary in that sense. Because for them, a good salesperson is who's got the most money on the board, not necessarily who's doing the best deals. And there's this ruthless pressure, particularly if you're competitive and ambitious and you get stuck. That's where my comparison syndrome started in boxing, and then it went straight over to sales. It was like, I've got to be number one, I've got to be number one. I used to kill myself to be in that number one spot. I used to absolutely murder myself in order to get there. And I just wouldn't settle for anything else. And I used to take deals that didn't go through very personally. It was just more evidence that I wasn't enough. And sales, if you have a complex where you don't feel enough, it's a great way to validate yourself, because it's very clear I won or I lost. But the problem is, winning never feels anywhere near the level of intensity of emotion when you win, when you're operating out of that model, never feels any as heavy or as big as the intensity of feeling like a loser when you don't win. Almost like gambling. The wins don't feel as good as the losses hurt you, if that makes sense. So in that environment, it really is just a place where it's not even just the market you're competing with. So one of my technologies to sell, we used to have like 25 competitors in our space that could do the same thing. Then on top of that, we had a sales team that was too big for the market that we were selling into. So now there's like a ruthless internal culture. So you're now looking over your shoulder at the people on the same sales floor sat opposite you on the desk, where you could go away on holiday, you come back and your leads are gone. They were counted, they were in your list and they were taken or moved out of your name. So you're not only doing battle with the market, you're doing battle internally as well. And when you have a very ambitious, ruthless environment like that, it just never sat with me. It never worked. And sales, whilst it served a purpose, because when I was skint and insecure, it helped me not be skint anymore. From 15 grand of debt, clearing that off in 7 months, to then you and I had the golden party years in London, and They were fun and they were good, but when you're not skint anymore and you're not as insecure as you were, it kind of becomes devoid of purpose. It's kind of like, and that's where I was studying to be a therapist as well on the side. I realized I started enjoying coaching the team and the younger salespeople more than I did actually closing deals. It kind of loses its purpose. It kind of loses its joy, but it's a fascinating psychology experiment, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, it really is. The purpose that hiring managers, directors, CEOs, and anybody in a senior position who's hiring in the sales environment want to see in potential hires is money. I remember when I first ventured into the world of recruitment, and I could just tell that the person who was interviewing me wanted me to say that my primary driver was money.
Money, baby.
But it doesn't go beyond that.
Yeah, it's my money talks.
It's not, why do you want that money?
Yeah.
It's just, why do you only want 50 grand? You should want 100 grand.
I remember interviewing for BDMs, and I said to the CRO, I was like, I've got my idea of what's going to really drive a salesperson, but you got any tips? And he goes, yeah, look out for guys that are in debt. And I'd cleared off my debt by then, but instantly I got it. And I was like, tell me more. He goes, someone that's got a mortgage of like 400 grand outstanding and a car that they can't quite afford, and they send their kids to private school. They need money, baby. And I was just like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You imagine that? He's like, look out for candidates with debt because they'll often have to clear it off.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. The last sales job I had working as a business manager at a technology company, I had a lot of debt when I first started there, and I went through the hiring process pretty quickly. So it makes sense.
It was interesting though, because you left that. I think was it however many salespeople there were in your division, but you walked out number one, feeling enough and feeling like, it's almost like you emotionally checked out from the result, and as a result, you just started smashing in deals.
Yeah, and a lot of that's down to the level of empathy and compassion, which I think I found within myself as a result of doing a lot of deep psychological and emotional work, because that allows me to spot those same emotions in customers who I was dealing with. And it didn't feel like much of a chore once I'd done that work. The communication was front and center, as opposed to the paycheck at the end of the month, which was historically what I was always chasing throughout the course of my sales career. But as a result of just understanding and wanting to find out what the current problem was in as much detail as possible, that inherently builds a lot of connection between me and the customer. They feel understood, they feel heard, they feel listened to, which isn't what a lot of customers feel when they're talking to somebody who works in sales. And then I ask, if you got what you came for from me, how would you know? Oh, well, our current technology platform isn't really serving us. It's causing a load of headaches. Our staff don't really like using it. We've had it in place for 5 years now. It's really about time we had an update. Oh, okay. You know exactly what the problem is. It's so easy to find a solution at that point. If you had everything that you could possibly want out of your technology platform, what would change for you? Oh, well, we'd free up so much more time. Our staff would actually enjoy using it. That would allow them to invest their time into the jobs that they're actually supposed to be doing, as opposed to fixing all the bugs and glitches that they're currently doing right now. These are therapy questions. These aren't sales questions.
And you're not worrying about your target.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because at that point, you're like, well, my debt's clear and I've got cash in the bank. I could walk out tomorrow and this is no problem. And you had solid psychological foundations, i.e. you're not secure and you're not skint.
Yeah.
So your ability to essentially coach them towards a decision, because that's what sales is. People think it's, I have to tell you about all these magic features. You essentially coach them to a decision, yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
I want every single coach, entrepreneur listening to this to remove the financial pressure and targets and all of that bullshit, because that's your bullshit, not the client's bullshit. The client just wants them to get what they need. That's it. When you go into those conversations, when it's not about you, your ego, your targets, how much money you make, and you just treat that as all, like you said, you're deeply curious. What does this person need? How can I help them? What questions can I ask to unlock that? That will inherently change the game. And I saw that firsthand, where you are actually able to sell from that place of abundance. You were crushing your numbers. And how many people were in your division when you were number one?
7.
When you left?
7.
Across the whole sales organisation?
Well, it's split into different teams. We were the North team, then had a mid of the UK team, and then a Southern team. Yeah, there's a couple of months when I was top across all 3, but in my team, I was top when I left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And notice how it was amazing is, 6 years ago, me and Dan would have been like, Dan's fucking top boy. Dan's number one. Yeah. But you just didn't give a fuck about him. You were just like, it's just kind of what I do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I want to talk about sales insofar as the ability to navigate emotion. Sales is about resilience. So when people see that TMP is scaling, it's not just a sales experience or adequate, but it's actually the emotions and the psychology that we learn putting that in. And you're not going to learn this from a standard therapist. You're not going to learn this from somebody that's studied at a university and sort of done that and then worked in a clinic or worked in an NHS. You're not going to get that. That's what makes TMP special. All of our coaches have got business experience. And a big part of that is the resilience to deal with the ups and downs of business, the ability to be rejected and still keep moving forward. Just before this podcast, I shared the story of my first 2 weeks, my first ever sales job. They told me, right, here is a list of clients that we think you can sell this £16,500 virtual reality simulator to. I was like, all right, bring it on. And essentially on this list, it was the wrong clients. But I didn't know that. So I put in 100 calls a day, like calling and I'm not getting anywhere. I roll up to the office, up to the CEO's office after 2 weeks. He says, how are you getting on with those calls? And I was like, I haven't booked a single meeting. How many calls it goes into the platform? You make about averaging 100 calls a day. It's quite a lot. Well done, you passed the test. I went, what do you mean not passed the test? He's like, we wanted to see or not whether you'd quit. But you didn't. So you're going to keep your job and stay in the room. And I was like, thanks, buddy. He goes, yeah. Do you want to learn how to make lists and how to make the real list that was going to make you a lot of money? And I was like, yes, please, sir. And then he goes, off you go. And that resilience he was essentially teaching me was learn how to fuck things up. Like cold calling, different ball game.
Big time.
Big time.
Big time. Yeah.
Fuck it out.
Yeah, my first job in sales was pure cold calling. And I worked for I was going to say the name now. I'll avoid saying the name. It was a leaflet distribution business. And as we know, the last thing you want to see when you get home after a long day's work is a stack of leaflets on your doorstep. You're just not interested in it. But at the time, I was actually doing a apprenticeship as a mechanic. And I was fed up of getting cold, dirty, and wet every day. And I wanted an out. And my cousin, who was a year younger than me, was earning double the amount of money as me working in sales. And I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I just took any sales job that I could possibly get my hands on. It just so happened to be this one that I landed on for a leaflet distribution company. And it was my job to go into different areas of London on foot, no base salary, commission only, and knock on doors to try and sell this service of leaflet distribution. So we'd bunch together different restaurants and estate agents' leaflets and deliver them to a specific area. And I was there for 3 months before I made a sale.
Just cool.
No, after no, after no, after no.
It's instant feedback as well, isn't it?
Instant feedback, yeah.
It's instant rejection. And I tell you what, those calls, I'm really glad I did them because I must have done at least, I'm going to say at least 100,000. Like over the years, just calling, generating business. The thing that I learned is the worst that somebody can say to you is fuck off and die, never call me again. And I did get that once. I did get
a big one.
Fuck off and die, never call me again. And that triggers you. You're like, you put the phone down, you're like, I'm a bad human being. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've called him at the wrong time. Oh my God. When you learn, well, hang on, they're just words. And here's a weird philosophical thought for you for a second. Business is just walking to the room and saying words. That's all business is. Sure, you have to build systems, but you still have to speak out those and think out those systems. You know, that's all business and that's all sales that was. It was just going into rooms and saying words. And the worst that could happen is you get shouted at, you get a little bit humiliated, and then that's it. For me, having come from boxing, I was like, I'm not getting punched in the face in front of everyone. This is great. This is easy. It wasn't easy. That's not true. That's actually a big fat lie. But it felt a hell of a lot easier than getting punched in the face in public. And yeah, I think just that resilience that you learn, that instant feedback loop of nope. You have to learn to just disassociate with no. We don't give a shit about no here. Because it's just, if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. And you kind of have to beat that out of you. Because if you're getting, you know, the idea was you'd probably have a 3 to 5% conversion rate, right? Off of a cold call to booking a meeting. So of 100 calls, on average, you'd get 95 no's, maybe 97 no's to 3 to 5 yeses. And of those 3 to 5 yeses, let's say there's 5, 2 of them probably going to reschedule and not turn up. So then you've got 3 actual yeses out of 97 no's or no answers. So you kind of just learn, you just got to disassociate with failure. It's just like, all right, next. And you might have no luck one week. Next week you've booked so many meetings or you've closed so many deals, and it's just like, what? And you got to learn to ride those waves as a coach, as an entrepreneur. You got to learn to navigate those ups and those downs. I remember you and I used to have a daily debrief. And we'd be walking home from work or whatever, I'd give you a call and I'd be like, well, this deal looks like it's going to come in and that's going to be a 42k deal, which works out about $2,000 in commission. But the 80k I fell out, but the 12k I came in. And it was just like, it was just this roller coaster. And I look back on that, I used to think we dealt with it really well, but actually the way that we dealt it with was drink, partying, MDMA, and just that was how we processed that. Because it was so because the thing with a sales role, and it is like owning a business insofar as you don't hit your numbers, you're fired. Sure, you might get a 1 month performance review, but other than that, you're out the door. You're gone. It really is a meritocracy. It's old school shit. Same like sports, old school. Generally, the best gets to the top. There's politics that happen, but generally, if you're good, your quality will shine through. And that fear, I think the ego fear was worse. What if I'm not number 1 or number 2 and hit my targets, and then I'm not inherently not enough? And I never really had a fear of losing my job because I was always in top 3, apart from the last 2 roles where my heart just wasn't in it. I was just broken at that point. I just didn't want to be there. It was just I couldn't get as well paid as doing what I was. But you have to. There is an inherent just pressure, and part of it is dusting yourself down and going, well, tomorrow's a different day. Tomorrow's another opportunity to change this, and that was mental fortitude, which was journaling, writing, just having the hope and the resilience that, yeah, but I'm only one phone call away from changing my entire month or my entire quarter. I'm only one deal away from doing that. But for us, I look back lovingly at those times. Like the way it used to be is we would obviously be selling Monday to Friday. I'll be in the office from 8 a.m. until about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. You was a field sales rep. So a field sales rep is they travel around the country to go out and meet people. You had lots of meetings in London. So whenever you was in London on Thursday or Friday night, we'd be like, right, where are we going now? And it'd often be some of the big nightclubs, the bars, or the pubs. And when Dan was in relationship management, he just always had tickets, man. You just had what was your budget per month to just entertain clients?
One business I worked for is essentially unlimited.
You had
unlimited budget to take clients out. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I remember,
we used to do lunches at Duck and Waffle, £500 lunches, which I did get a big slap on the wrist for. That one, big slap on the wrist. Like, you're taking the piss, aren't you? I expect you to take your clients to Nando's. You give me a card with no budget on it, we're gonna go big.
Mate, you had tickets to the boxing, the football, the NFL, the UFC every week. Yeah. It was like, And somebody would always drop out. So I used to be on standby for all the big events, knowing somebody would drop out, and then I'd get the phone call, in you come, son.
Yeah.
Not just come and meet all the guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It is incredible. I mean, fond memories, but lost souls.
Yeah.
Deeply lost souls. I look back to those times when we used to go on a Thursday night for Thirsty Thursdays in London, and it was escapism. It was pure escapism, that pressure, anxiety, and overwhelming weight that I was carrying as a result of that hefty target that was over my head the whole time. That existential release by way of drinking until 4:00 in the morning on a Thursday.
Yeah.
That was what it was. It was pure escapism and nothing more. And it's challenging. It's a difficult environment to work in because it's a feedback loop that you get stuck in, isn't it?
It's all psychological pressure.
Yeah.
And it's still a public game insofar as everybody knows whether you're making the numbers or not, because it's on the wall or it's on the system. And it was like binary, good or bad.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But, I actually found when I had a lot of meaning and purpose, probably years 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, lost soul. But the first 2 years was before I went into sales, built up a load of commission, and then left to try and box for the Olympic team. That was my goal. That was my vision. But I was like, right, I've got some commission in the bank. I know I can always go back into sales if it doesn't work out. Tried it, ranked 6th in England, made the England team. Wasn't good enough to stay on it. Got my ass kicked. Depression, eating disorder, out you go. Tail between my legs, all right. I've got to rebuild an identity now. Let me try and go back to sales. And that's when I went back into my second spell. That was I was lost and lost with purpose there. I'd also lost a load of money in a business there, trying to set up an app for fighters. So I was 15 grand in debt, lost my place on the England team, built up my confidence again. I actually got a part-time job when I was still boxing, recruiting salespeople for Samsung. And that built up my confidence again because I was still overcoming the eating disorder. And I just had this belief. I was like, every single role I've gone into, I've pretty much smashed out the park in sales. I had this sort of, this is something I'm naturally good at and I love it and it's great. But there was a deep insecurity within me that was fueling that. But I found like when I was skint and insecure, that for me had so much purpose. And then when you and I had the party years where there was one summer where we were out every weekend, and every second weekend we'd fly out. So we'd work in our bollocks off Monday to Friday. Friday night we'd end up in one of the big nightclubs in London. Then, if we weren't there, we would then be on a plane the following week to Ibiza, Budapest, Amsterdam. It was just non-stop.
Yeah, it was.
It was just non-stop. And then we'd fly in, we'd party Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes even Sunday night, get back in for the late Sunday night, Monday morning, having drunk a shitload of alcohol, taken a shitload of MDMA. So now you're anxious because you've had this huge expulsion of dopamine in your brain. And then you come back and all the dopamine's disappearing. And then you go and walking straight back into a high pressure cooker role. I remember there was points where you and I was so stressed and under pressure. It was the partying that was just that release and that escape. And that was the thing that we needed to keep us going back into that rat race of running in that hamster wheel again and again and again and again. And I look back and I'm like, how did we have the energy for that?
Yeah.
That was unbelievable levels of output.
It was. I just want to unpack that because what you said there is so fascinating. I think just to organize it into its different compartments will be really interesting insofar as the meaning and purpose conversation, because whether we use your first 4 years, I think you said, or first 6 years perhaps in sales, where you had that meaning purpose initially because you wanted to make the GB team, secondly because you wanted to, what was it you said? The second time?
I was getting insecure. I wanted to clear off my debt and I wanted to win. And I also wanted money.
Debt. Yeah, the debt. Same as me. When I took my most recent job in sales, the meaning and purpose for me and the thing that allowed me to really just push through and think beyond the money was clearing the debt. But deeper than that, I wanted to clear the debt because I wanted to break free from the matrix, get out of employment, come and join TMP full time and just work independently from the system. That was the meaning and purpose. And if we take it back to us towards the latter years of our sales career, well, our meaning and purpose was partying.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because it was the only
Lots
thing
of
that was
money
giving us
to go
respite.
and party and escape from
That's
the
it.
pressure and the stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a side note. Dan's left a 6-figure sales role to come and work for TMP, and if that's not meaning and purpose, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big deal. You were like, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
This is it.
No question.
Here we are.
Yeah.
How did that turn out for you?
Brilliant. It's incredible. We're in the best place we've ever been, and the meaning and purpose that we now have in the work that we do, working to help rewire and empower ambitious minds, is way deeper than any meaning and purpose I ever felt in sales. Full stop. It's so much more. We've got that same, we were saying this not too long ago, the way which we both used to look at each other when we were stood in the smoking area of a mega club in London and say, we've done it. This is what we're working hard for.
We were there. I remember as well. I think it was Budapest. There was definitely a time in Ibiza. I went to Ibiza every year, 5 years on the trot. We looked at each other and was like, we've done it. Whatever that is, that was the thing. And I remember saying at the time, we're going to look back at these are going to be the golden years. And it feels like we're going through some more golden years. But the difference is, it's just so much less psychological deadwood. There's just so much less toxic shame and sludge and anxious. It's like our work output is high. We're very productive, getting shit done. But it's less emotionally heavy. And I would say the split of when we were in sales and we were partying was probably a 70% darkness, scarcity, heaviness to a 30% light, love, and abundance. Whereas now it feels a lot more 20 scarcity, fear, not enoughness, 80% abundance and light and love. Somebody listening to this is saying, well, what's the final 20% then? You need dark energy.
Yeah.
You need dark. There's no, I'm not Jesus. It's not just, this is all just love, light, and forgiveness. That's not what this is. You still need an element of darkness. But that darkness has got to come from a place of, for us as ambitious males, it's, and this isn't just males, there are females that have a strong masculine. That masculine need to build shit. That masculine need to go out and take risk and go on adventure and go and learn things and get on planes and see what happens and go, all right, well, let's play this risk and let's see how this goes. You need that, but there's still an element of darkness within that. I think every single human being has an element of darkness, and darkness isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if it's all darkness, good luck, because it's not sustainable and it is going to come crumbling down as it did for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dangerous place to live. Very dangerous place to live. Yeah, no, I'm just incredibly grateful to have this experience now. Everything's falling into place quite nicely, and something which I said to you last night off the back of speaking at an event is it's an unfamiliar place to receive so many comments of appreciation.
Fucking tell me about it.
Yeah.
Different, isn't it?
It's very bizarre, but wow, does it feel good? It's incredible.
I mean, in sales, the appreciation I got was, in fact, we were in Amsterdam partying when I got a phone call from
Moss Bros.
Yeah, Moss Bros. I wasn't know if I wanted to say their name or not, but I haven't said the company I work for, so it's fine. Essentially closed the deal with Moss Bros. And I get a phone call from one of their directors that I was doing the deal with. Lovely guy, very smart, very capable. And I said to him, look, I'm going to be away on holiday. But if we get this deal over the line, please give me a call on my mobile. We were having lunch, 2 girls at the time. We were having an absolute blast, yuppieing about. And I get the phone call. I go, oh my God, it's him. And I told him to only call me if it was good news. I said, if it's bad news, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I'll pick up the pieces when I get home. And I think that month I'd done 247% of my target. I think that month I delivered something like 60% of the entire company's revenue just off of those few deals. And in that moment, in the sales team, I got a huge well done from my mentor. Got a huge well done from Ron. The CEO didn't like me, so I kind of got a begrudging well done. one of my guys, shout out if you're listening to this, Sam. I love you, buddy. He knows, he'll know who he is. He was genuinely happy for me. He was genuinely like a huge well done. And everyone else was a little bit like, well done, mate. Like, slightly kind of jealous that I'd done that. And that was like probably the peak of my career, to be honest, was that period of time from a sales side. And other than that, all the other departments didn't really like the sales team because they were seen as sort of manipulative and greedy and whatever. Whenever you told anyone else that you worked in sales, it's like, oh, in sales? You know? Whereas here with what we do, yeah, that level of love and appreciation and that change that we have in the world, like if I was still working in sales, I'll probably be earning realistically 5 to 6 times what I pay myself now. And I've got colleagues that were in the same roles that I was in that are still, or ex-colleagues that were still doing that, and they are earning literally probably 5 times what I pay myself. I wouldn't swap that in the world. No, I just wouldn't. Never in a million years, because I get to experience so much abundant joy. And yeah, there's stress, yeah, there's pressure like that, but that's a good thing. That's a nice thing. I would never ever swap that ever for what we do now. The gratitude and the love and the abundance and the change that we're able to make through total mental performance, man. I couldn't give that up. I couldn't go back.
No, I couldn't, and I never will.
No,
I'm not going
this
back.
is the path. Yeah, keep it.
Yeah, I'm not going back. And something which I said to you yesterday as well. I get to the end of pretty much every week, and I feel pretty beat up.
What was the phrase that we came up with?
Success.
No. Satisfyingly fucked.
Satisfyingly fucked.
You get to the end of the day and you go, like even today, you know, speaking, you spoke yesterday, I spoke yesterday, long day, we finished up about 11 p.m, started we went for breakfast at 8:30, so it's a long day. Even here, I'm just wrapping up 4 hours of podcast shooting. I'm pretty tired. My parents are going to come visit us for dinner in an hour. And I can literally sit down at dinner, I'll be fucked, but satisfyingly fucked. Even tomorrow morning, got 2 interviews and a client call before I step on my flight to then go and spend 7 hours building SOPs. I've got Monday off. But it's so worth it. It's so fucking worth it. It feels so damn fucking good. If any of you that are listening to this that are thinking, I want some of that, how can I get some of that? Having spent an hour speaking about sales, I'm not going to hit you with a cold, hard fucking sales pitch, but you should do some of the fucking work. Like, part of the reason we've got here is because we've done the work that we preach.
Yeah.
Which is deep, emotional, total mental performance. It's letting go of that guilt, that shame, that fear, that anxiety, that self-doubt. It's actually taking time to write out about the future and go, where is it that you want to go? And what parts of me need to die in order to do that? You and I could not have achieved this if we hadn't have done the same process that we teach.
Absolutely. It's absolutely essential.
Yeah.
It's hard. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I'm
fucking
sit here
hell,
and
mate.
tell you that it's an easy road to get here, but it's taken a lot of turmoil, a lot of introspection, and it doesn't stop. This is an important point. Total mental performance isn't necessarily a finite
It's not a finish
destination.
No.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better it gets, the more satisfying it gets, the more fulfillment, meaning, and purpose you find that's inherent within your life, because it will attract its way to you and you will go out of your way to find it.
Yeah.
There's none of that psychological deadwood's holding you in that protection response of shame, fear, guilt, whatever it might be. Get that shit out of the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life.
It's not helping anyone.
Yeah.
Woo, I deeply enjoyed that, mate. That was
Me
good
too.
fun.
Really good fun.
That was good fun. Well, team, if you found that helpful, please do share this to your stories. Tag us. Drop a comment on the link. Leave us some reviews. Leave us some ratings. A huge thank you for jumping in, Dan, mate. We're coming up to your 1-year anniversary here at TMP. You've absolutely fucking smashed it out of the park. There's no one else in the world that I'd rather be doing this with. And now looking at your next phase of your growth as an individual, not just as a coach, but now Dan is going to be leading. We called it the entry level team. It's not even going to be the entry level team. It's actually going to be the future of our business. Dan is going to be leading that team, and he'll be having a team of coaches and therapists working with him, and that's the next stage of his journey. I'm very, very excited to see where that goes. So, mate, I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Super excited for the future.
Let's go. All right,
Let's
team.
go.
Big love. Enjoy.
Thank you.